If a man can't fire up 18 horsepower of gas-guzzling, two-stroke freedom on a Saturday morning, is this even America? I ask you. It was 8:02 a.m. The sun was just peeking over the perfectly manicured, chemically green hellscape of the Harmony Creek subdivision. The air was crisp. The birds were... well, I couldn't hear them, because I'd just yanked the pull cord on the beast. She roared to life like a dragon waking from a whiskey-soaked nap. A plume of beautiful blue-gray smoke sputtered from the side-mounted, and mostly ornamental, muffler. The chassis vibrated so hard my vision blurred, rattling the half-empty can of RC Cola in the cup holder. This was my therapy. The beast wasn't just a mower. She was a 1998 Rust-Oleum special, a riding mower I'd fixed up myself after finding her abandoned by a barn. Sure, she was missing a headlight, and the seat was more duct tape than original vinyl, but that 18-horsepower engine? That was pure, unadulterated American grunt. I popped in one earbud, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Fortunate Son, jammed the throttle to Tortoise. The hair setting was a myth. Both were terrifyingly fast, and engaged the blades. Whum, chunka, chunka, vroar. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. The sound of industry, the sound of curb appeal, the lawn song of my people. I took my lines seriously. I'm a diagonal cut man. It gives the lawn a big league feel. I started my first pass, the smell of cut grass and high-octane exhaust filling my nostrils. I was in the zone. I was a suburban gladiator, taming the wild fescue. I was maybe 3 lines in, just getting to the tricky part around the bird bath, when I sensed a disturbance, a shadow, a cold spot in the otherwise pleasant morning. I looked up. There, on the edge of my property line, standing like a disapproving statue, was Brenda. Brenda from 4B, HOA president, Queen of the Beige. Her lawn, of course, was a carpet of unnervingly perfect, unnaturally green fescue that looked less like grass and more like astroturf. She was wearing a cream-colored silk robe, fuzzy slippers, and holding a coffee mug that said, Boss Lady. She wasn't yelling. She didn't have to. She just stood there, radiating a passive-aggressive energy so dense it could bend light. I saw her. I gave her the neighborly half-wave, a lift of 2 fingers from the steering wheel. I pretended to focus really hard on my edging. Oh, here we go, I thought. She's probably upset the vibrations are rattling her collection of commemorative spoons. She didn't move. She just waited. That's her power move. She'll just wait until common decency forces you to acknowledge her. Fine. With a heavy sigh, I pulled the choke. The beast shuddered, coughed a final puff of smoke, and died. The sudden silence was deafening. I could hear a bird. I could hear a distant sprinkler. I could hear my own tinnitus. I pulled out my earbud. "Mornin', Brenda," I shouted, giving her my best "what a great day" smile. She glided across the dew-covered grass. She didn't walk. She glided. "Dave," she said. Her voice was syrupy sweet, which is always worse than when she's yelling. "Good morning. Beautiful day for yard work." "Sure is, Brenda," I said, patting the beast's hood. "Gotta tame the jungle, you know? Can't let the HOA down on curb appeal." I even gave her a little wink. She did not wink back. Her smile was as tight as a new lug nut. It's 8:02, and some of our residents, myself included, are finding the volume of your equipment to be disruptive." I feigned shock. Disruptive? It's a mower, Brenda. It mows. That's the sound of industry, of progress. It's the sound of a monster truck rally, Dave. A monster truck rally where all the trucks are on fire. And this, she said, pulling a piece of paper from her robe pocket, is your first official warning. It's laminated. She handed it to me. She was right. It was laminated. A thick, heavy-duty lamination, the kind you use for a restaurant menu. Notice of nuisance. Excessive decibels. Who laminates a warning? I stammered. We take our community standards very seriously, Dave, she said, her eyes gleaming. 8 a.m. on a Saturday. It's just not neighborly. It's 8:02. That's after 8. It's fair game. The bylaws state 8 a.m., but the spirit of the law implies a more gentle start to the weekend. Perhaps 10 o'clock, or preferably, you could hire a silent, battery-operated service like EcoLawn. They're on the preferred vendor list. I stared at the laminated sheet. This isn't about the noise, is it? This is about the beast. You've always hated the beast. Brenda's smile widened. This is about the decibels, Dave. Have a wonderful day. She glided away. I just sat there on my mower, vibrating with rage, holding a piece of plastic-coated righteousness. I stormed inside, slamming the screen door. My wife, Sarah, was at the kitchen counter, sipping coffee and scrolling through her tablet. She didn't look up. You will not believe what she did. She laminated it. I spiked the warning onto the counter like a game-winning touchdown. The mower, Dave? She asked, her voice heavy with the resignation of a woman who has been married to me for 15 years. She called the beast a nuisance. The beast! It's classic. It's vintage. Sarah finally looked up, pushing her glasses up her nose. Honey, it sounds like a helicopter is trying to land on our roof. You did fix the muffler with a soup can. It was a chili can, I shot back, a little too defensively. A Wolf brand chili can. It's high-grade tin. And that's not the point. The point is, this isn't about the noise. It's about the principle. Uh-huh, Sarah said, taking another sip. Well, your principal just got you on the agenda for the emergency HOA meeting Thursday night. She group texted. My blood ran cold. An emergency meeting? For me? For Decibel Gate, as she's calling it. Sarah sighed and looked at me. Dave, please, just go to Home Depot and buy one of those quiet electric ones I liked. The Ego, it's quiet. It's green. Green? The beast is green. Mostly under the rust. No, I am not surrendering to lawn tyranny. I'm going to that meeting. I'm going to defend my rights. Okay, Sarah said, turning back to her tablet. Just, please, don't wear your Lawn and Order t-shirt. It's not as clever as you think it is. I stormed into the garage. I crumpled the laminated note in my fist. It immediately, defiantly, sprang back to its original shape. I was almost impressed. Thursday? I muttered to the beast, patting her rusty hood. Oh, it is on. For the next 4 days, I was a man possessed. I was a suburban litigator, preparing for the case of his life. I spent hours in the garage, not fixing the beast. That would be admitting guilt, but preparing my defense. I printed a 14-page article from a 1998 issue of Popular Mowing magazine, which I'd found on eBay, extolling the virtues of the Briggs & Stratton 18 HP engine. A workhorse of the American yard, it said. See? Workhorse. I also prepared a visual aid. On a piece of yellowed poster board, I drew a badly drawn chart. I titled it, Mow Time versus Decibels, the Efficiency Argument. My logic was flawless. See, Sarah? I explained, holding up the poster board in the kitchen. She was trying to make dinner. The beast is loud, yes, I'll concede that. But it's also fast. I can mow our 0.3 acres in, 20 minutes flat. That's 112 decibels for 20 minutes. Right, she said, chopping an onion. But, I continued, tapping the chart with a Sharpie, one of those ego mowers, the whisper-quiet ones, they're weak, they're pathetic. They'd take an hour at least, at say 65 decibels. So my math shows, I scribbled on the board, that my total noise footprint is actually less than the quiet mower. It's simple physics. Sarah stopped chopping. She just stared at me. Dave, that's not how any of that works. People don't care about the noise footprint. They care about being jolted out of bed by what sounds like the apocalypse. You're going to get laughed out of there. They won't be laughing when I show them the data, I said confidently. Thursday night arrived. I put on my good polo shirt, the one without the grease stain. Sarah wished me luck like a woman sending her husband off to a war she knew he couldn't win. The emergency meeting was held in Brenda's living room. Of course it was. I walked in at 6:58 p.m. Her house was immaculate. The carpet was white. White. Who has white carpet? Everything was beige, or cream, or eggshell. There were glass tables with nothing on them. The air smelled faintly of lemon polish and superiority. The 5 board members were already there, sitting on her stiff white sofa. There was Gary from 3A, the treasurer, who always looked like he was sucking on a lemon. There was Cynthia from 2C, who was wearing a full beige jogging suit, even though she was just sitting. And 2 other guys I just called the beiges. They were all drinking lemon water, from actual glasses. I was the only one not in the beige to khaki color spectrum. I felt like a bruise. Dave, glad you could make it, Brenda said, gesturing to a single, hard-backed wooden chair placed in the middle of the room, facing the sofa. It felt inquisitorial. Wouldn't miss it, I muttered, sitting down. I placed my popular mowing article and my poster board on the floor next to me. Brenda stood by her fireplace. She had a laptop. She was plugging it into her giant flat-screen TV. We'll just get right to it. Harmony Creek versus Johnson, D. Re-Ordinance 7B, Noise Nuisance. My stomach did a flip. Viz Johnson? It's a case? Just a formality, Dave, Gary the treasurer grunted. Brenda clicked a button. A PowerPoint presentation flashed onto the screen. A PowerPoint. For a mower. The first slide said, Decibel Gate, a crisis of community. Oh, come on, I said. Slide, Brenda said, ignoring me. A graph appeared. As you can see from this decibel reading app, which I downloaded this Saturday, Mr. Johnson's equipment peaked at 112 decibels. That's a strong engine, I offered. For comparison, she continued, clicking again, that is the equivalent of a live rock concert, a chainsaw, or a small, low-flying aircraft. At 8:02 a.m., she then played an audio file. It was the sound of the beast. I have to admit, from her Ring doorbell's perspective, it did sound aggressive. A high-pitched, metallic shriek that sounded like a robot being murdered. And, she said, clicking to a grainy video, here is a clip from Mrs. Henderson's Nest Cam from 2 weeks prior. 8:04 a.m. You can clearly see her prize-winning petunias vibrating. The video showed a flower pot. It was, in fact, rattling on the windowsill. I I was unaware of the petunia situation, I said. That's all, Dave. The floor is yours, Brenda said, crossing her arms. This was it. My moment. I stood up. I grabbed my poster board. It felt small now. Look, I said, my voice cracking slightly. I hear you. The petunias. I'm sorry about the petunias, but this Mower, the beast, she's efficient. That's the key word here. I held up my chart. The loudness. It's just a byproduct of power. You want the grass cut fast, right? I'm saving us all from prolonged noise. It's actually quieter if you factor in the reduced mow time. Gary from 3A just stared at me. He took a sip of his lemon water. Dave, have you considered an electric mower or a manual reel mower? I felt the blood drain from my face. A reel mower? Is this 1850? Am I supposed to churn my own butter next? What's he gonna suggest? I just get on my knees and chew it? This is about a man's right to mow. This is about a community's right to peace and quiet, Brenda countered, her voice like ice. All in favor of banning gas-powered mowers exceeding 70 decibels in the Harmony Creek subdivision, effective immediately? Every hand went up. Unanimous. All opposed? I raised my hand. The motion passes 4-2. Well, the motion passes, Brenda said. Dave, you'll be issued a formal letter. And a $100 fine for the initial violation. A fine? You can't be serious. It's laminated, she said, pulling it from a folder. I drove home in a fuming, white-hot silence. This wasn't justice. This was tyranny. Tyranny by beige. I walked in the door. Sarah was on the couch. So, how'd it go, champ? They banned the beast. Banned me from mowing my own lawn. Sarah sighed, a long, weary sigh. Well, I guess we're going to Home Depot for that quiet electric one I liked. No, I said, my voice low. No, I'm not giving in. If they want quiet, I'll give them quiet. I'll give them maliciously quiet. My lawn was starting to look shaggy, pathetic, a symbol of my defeat. I spent 2 days in a dark, spite-fueled spiral. I even tried scissors on a small patch by the mailbox. My back gave out after 5 minutes. Finally, defeated, I bought the pathetic EcoMow 3000 electric mower. It was cordless. It was whisper quiet. It whirred like a toy. It also choked and died on a slightly damp clover. I was a king without a kingdom. A man without his roar. And then, at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, scrolling the HOA loopholes subreddit, I saw it. My eyes felt like sandpaper. I was bathed in the pale, blue light of my phone, huddled under the covers so I wouldn't wake Sarah. I'd been scrolling for hours. HOA Loopholes was a dark, beautiful place, filled with stories of people who'd beaten their own Brendas using flagpole height regulations and satellite dishes. I was about to give up when I found the thread. They banned my grill, so I built a decorative brick pizza oven. It was inspiring. It got me thinking. I pulled up the Harmony Creek bylaws, which I had, of course, saved as a PDF on my phone. I was a man obsessed. I scrolled past Section 9B, Noise Ordinance, my personal Waterloo. I zipped past Section 12C, Vehicle Parking, no campers, no work vans, no joy. And then, I found it. My heart stopped. Section 15, Pets and Animals. I read it, my breath held. No resident shall keep dogs of an aggressive breed. See Appendix F, snakes, exotic pets, or fowl. 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 That's chickens. They'd banned chickens. Smart. But it didn't say. It didn't say livestock. It didn't say ungulates. It didn't say goats. A slow, maniacal grin spread across my face. It was 3:15 a.m. I shook Sarah's shoulder. Sarah, wake up. Go away, she mumbled. Sarah, what does the HOA bylaw say about ungulates? She rolled over, her hair a mess. What? Dave, it's 3 a.m. What's an ungulate? Is that a New Age carpet? It's a hoofed mammal, Sarah, I whispered, vibrating with pure distilled genius. Like a deer, or a goat. And the bylaws don't say anything about them. Sarah's eyes slowly focused. They went from sleepy to confused to wide with dawning horror. Oh no, she said, sitting bolt upright. Dave, what did you do? I haven't done it yet, but I'm solving our problem ecologically. We're going green, greener than that stupid ego mower. You're not buying goats. It wasn't a question. It was a plea. I'm just researching. It's a loophole, Sarah. They can't stop me. They're quiet. They're organic. They're silent mowers. Dave, they poop. Goats poop. It's fertilizer, Sarah. Organic fertilizer. Brenda pays $50 a bag for that stuff at the garden center. We'll be giving it away. She just groaned and buried her face in her pillow. I'm going back to sleep. And when I wake up, we are not having this conversation. This is a 3 a.m. fever dream. Oh, but we were. I didn't sleep. I just researched. At 6 a.m., I was on my laptop. I bypassed lawn services and went right to Craigslist. Farm and garden. It didn't take long. The ad was perfect, simple, elegant. Goats. They eat. 50. U-Haul. There was a blurry picture of, well, it was hard to tell. It was a mass of white and brown fur, but it looked hungry. I called the number. A grizzled voice answered on the third ring. Yeah? Hi, I said, trying to sound professional. Is this Goat Greg? There was a long, suspicious pause. Who's askin'? My name is Dave Johnson. I have a landscaping opportunity, a residential opportunity, in a gated community. Another long pause. I heard what sounded like a tractor engine in the background. You want goats in a, what, Harmony Creek? You're kidding me. My blood ran cold. How did you know? I'm the only goat Greg for 50 miles, city boy, and you're the third call I've gotten from Harmony Creek this year. The other two chickened out. I will not chicken out, I thought. I'm not chickening out. I need 4 of them, for grass removal. How loud are they? Goat Greg let out a dry, wheezing laugh that sounded like a dying compressor. Louder than a mower, city boy. But it's a different kind of loud. It's a God's kind of loud. HOA can't do nothing about that. You got cash? And a trailer? I can get them. Good, 'cause they ain't returnable. You buy 'em, they're your problem. And they eat everything. You understand? Hoses, wires, vinyl siding, your wife's pretty flowers. Everything. They sound perfect, I said. The journey was a blur. I called my buddy Mike, who has a landscaping business, the non-goat kind, and lied about needing to haul some patio furniture. He lent me his F-150 and a small, rickety utility trailer. I drove an hour outside the suburbs, past the outlet malls, past the last Starbucks, out where the roads turned to gravel and the air smelled like earth. And other stuff. Goat Greg's farm was pure, glorious chaos. It was 5 acres of mud, rusted-out trucks, and goats. Everywhere. Goats on tractors. Goats on sheds. Goats in trees. Greg was exactly as you'd picture. Faded overalls, a future Farmers of America hat that looked 50 years old, and a piece of straw dangling from his mouth. "You're Dave," he stated. "I'm Dave. I've got cash." "Right," he said. He whistled. "All right, you four, get in the trailer." 4 goats just trotted out of a dilapidated shed and hopped into my trailer, easy as you please. It was unnervingly simple. "They're trained?" I asked. "They know a sucker when they see one," Greg said, wiping his hands on his overalls. He pointed. "That one's Chewy. That one's Stomper. That's Butthead. And that one—" He pointed to a smaller, white one with mean-looking eyes. "That one's Brenda." My jaw dropped. "You named one Brenda?" "She's mean," Greg said matter-of-factly. "Bites. Always yelling about something. Seemed to fit. Now that's $200, plus $50 for the suburban aggravation fee." "Aggravation fee?" "You'll call me. They all call me. This pays for that call." I paid the man. He slammed the trailer gate shut. "You sure about this, son? These things will eat your wife's prize-winning roses." "Joke's on you," I said. "My wife's prize winners are azaleas." "They'll eat them too," he grunted. "Good luck, city boy." I got in the truck. I looked in the rearview mirror. 4 goats were staring at me. Just staring. "They're perfect," I whispered to myself. "They're silent." As if on cue, Butthead, the biggest one, opened his mouth and let out a blood-curdling, human-like scream. "Bleat! Bleat!" Okay, so not silent. But it's an organic noise, an artisanal noise. Brenda can't laminate an animal. I pulled out onto the gravel road, driving 30 mph on the highway, trailer rattling. 4 goats silently judging me through the back window. I was a conquering hero. I was an idiot. I was both. I pulled up to the house, the F-150's engine sounding like a polite whisper compared to the occasional blood-curdling shriek from the trailer. I parked on the street. I felt triumphant. Then I saw Sarah. She was standing on the porch, arms crossed, tapping her foot. She had that "I smell a goat" look on her face. "You bought goats, Dave," she said, her voice flat. It wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact. A judgment. "You actually literally went and bought goats." "4," I said, trying to keep the cheer in my voice. "And one of them is named Brenda. It's destiny, Sarah. Destiny." "Brenda's going to have an aneurysm," she said. "And where exactly are they going to stay?" I gestured to the lawn. "In the yard. They're mowers. They mow." "Dave, they're animals, not Roombas. They'll wander. They'll poop on the Hendersons' driveway. They'll eat Mrs. Henderson's vibrating petunias. You need a pen." She was right. Damn it. She was right. The thrill of victory was fading, replaced by the cold, hard slap of logistics. The goats were bleating. My neighbors were peeking. Through the blinds, I saw Mr. Henderson peek and then just close the blinds. "A pen," I said. "Right. A pen. No problem." I pulled out my phone. Back to the bylaws. I was a man on a mission. Section 7A, Fencing. All fencing must be decorative in nature, white picket or wrought iron style, and no more than 48 inches in height. "A 48-inch picket fence?" Sarah said, her voice rising. Dave, a goat will laugh at a picket fence. They'll eat it for lunch. Ah, I said, but it doesn't say what the inside of the fence can be made of. It just says white picket style. I was a genius. A goddamn genius. I pulled up the HOA-approved vendor list. There was only one fencing company. Fernandez Finest Fencing. I dialed. A friendly voice answered. Fernando, Fernandez Fencing. How can I make your day fine? Fernando, I said, my name is Dave Johnson. I live in Harmony Creek. I need a 48-inch white picket-style fence. Today. Today? Mr. Johnson, that's a rush job. We're usually booked 2 weeks out. I'll pay cash, I said. And I have a special request. There was a pause. I'm listening. I need it reinforced. Fernando arrived an hour later in a pristine white van. He was wearing a crisp blue polo shirt with his company logo embroidered on it. He had a tablet. He was the epitome of professionalism. He looked at my shaggy lawn, then at the rattling, bleating trailer at the curb. He wisely chose not to comment on the trailer. So, Mr. Johnson, he said, tapping on his tablet. The order says 48-inch white picket. Standard package. 120 linear feet. Very nice. Very classic. Yes, exactly, I said, walking him to the property line. Picket, white, 48 inches. Exactly to code. But I have a question. How strong is it? Like, could it hold, say, a very large, very enthusiastic dog? Fernando looked confused. Sir, it's a decorative fence. It's vinyl. It keeps, poodles in, mostly. Right. But I need you to reinforce it. On the inside, with, galvanized steel mesh. Like prison-grade mesh. The kind you can't cut with bolt cutters. But, hidden. So from the outside, it just looks decorative. Fernando just blinked. He looked from me to the lawn, to the trailer, which had just issued a terrifying shriek. Prison mesh, he said slowly. For a dog? Irish wolfhounds, I lied, nodding seriously. 4 of them. Huge, climbers. Very rowdy. Just got them. They're in the trailer, getting acclimated. Fernando looked at the trailer. Irish wolfhounds. In that? They're puppies, I lied again. Just really big, mean puppies. So, can you do it? The prison mesh picket fence. Today. Cash. Fernando looked at me for a long, calculating moment. He looked like he was questioning every life choice that had led him to my lawn. Finally, he sighed. Cash, you said? Cash, I confirmed. My guys are on another job, but for a wolfhound-proofing rush fee, I'll do it myself. It took him 6 hours. It was a masterpiece. From the street, it was the most beautiful, HOA-compliant, 48-inch white picket fence you've ever seen. It screamed Harmony Creek. But on the inside, it was Fort Knox. He had run 2x4s along the base and lined the entire interior with a thick, silver, woven wire mesh that looked like it could stop a rhino. That should hold your poodles, he said, wiping his brow. I paid the man. He practically sprinted back to his van. He was halfway down the street before I even had the gate latched. Okay, I yelled to Sarah, who was watching from the window, shaking her head. Time for the deployment! We both put on rubber gloves. This was probably a mistake, as it made us look like we were about to conduct a very strange medical procedure. I unlatched the trailer. "Okay, fellas, and Brenda, welcome to your new home." The ramp dropped. One by one, they trotted out. Chewy, Stomper, Butthead, and Brenda. They hit the grass. They looked around. They looked at the house. They looked at the new fence. And then they just started. It was beautiful. It was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. Chomp, chomp, chomp. Chomp, chomp, chomp. No gas, no smoke, no 120 decibel shriek, just nature. I grabbed a lawn chair and a beer from the garage. I sat on my porch. I was a pioneer. I was a genius. I was the king of loopholes. Just then, human Brenda walked out to get her mail from her mailbox, which was, of course, a decorative, HOA-approved lighthouse. She saw me. She saw me sitting on my porch, drinking a beer. Then she saw the goats. She stopped. Mid-stride, 1 foot in the air, her jaw, I am not exaggerating, her jaw unhinged. Her eyes went from me to the goats, to the fence, back to the goats. She was processing. I could almost see the smoke coming out of her ears as she tried to find the bylaw. I gave her the friendly 2-finger half-wave. "Afternoon, Brenda," I called out, taking a long, slow sip of my beer. "Just, mowing the lawn." Her face, oh, her face. It was a glorious symphony of confusion, rage, and grudging admiration. It was worth every penny. It was worth the smell in the truck. This was victory. For 1 full day, 24 glorious, smug hours, it worked. I was a god. I sat on my porch, sipping lemonade. It felt more wholesome than beer. And just watched. My neighbors would do the suburban slow stroll, walking their perfectly coiffed poodles past my house, pretending not to look. But they were looking. Oh, they were looking. They'd stare at the goats. They'd stare at the art installation of my prison picket fence. They'd stare at me, the goat man of Harmony Creek. I'd just nod, like this was all perfectly normal. Brenda, the human, was a whirlwind of activity. I saw her pacing her driveway, phone clamped to her ear. She was reading from a binder. My bylaws. She was looking for the loophole. But there wasn't one. I'd won. That night, I slept the sleep of the just, the sleep of the victorious. The quiet chomp, chomp, chomp was my lullaby. Then day 2 dawned. The honeymoon was over. I came out with my morning coffee, ready to survey my green, eco-friendly kingdom. The first sign of trouble was the patchiness. The lawn wasn't mowed, it was violated. The goats, it turns out, don't have a diagonal cut setting. They don't have any setting. They're not mowers, they're curators. They had eaten one spot, right by the mailbox, down to the dirt. It was a bald, brown, muddy circle of shame. But the tall patch of fescue by the driveway, the part that was actually an eyesore, they hadn't touched it. They'd apparently deemed it unworthy. Okay, I muttered to myself. Okay, so their pathing algorithm is a little random. I just need to manage them. Create grazing zones. I walked over to Butthead, who was standing on his hind legs, trying to eat a leaf off my oak tree. "Hey, buddy," I said. How about this nice tall stuff over here?" I grabbed his collar. I'd bought them all collars. It seemed civilized, and tried to herd him toward the tall patch. Butthead just stared at me. He stared at me with those weird, horizontal pupil alien eyes. He just chewed on the air. Then, with a look of profound indifference, he walked away and started licking the brick on my porch. "Fine," I said. "Fine, lick the brick. Whatever." Then the second problem arrived. On the wind. "Dave," Sarah said, pinching her nose as she came out the front door. "Dave, the wind is blowing. From the south. The Hendersons they're looking." "It's the smell of nature, honey," I said, a little too loudly. "It's organic. Fertilizer. It's earthy." "It's poopy, Dave. It smells like a petting zoo threw up. A petting zoo that only serves chili. You have to scoop it." "Scoop it? They're mowers. Do you scoop your mower?" The look she gave me said, "Don't try your flawed logic on me." I spent the next hour with a shovel and a Home Depot bucket. This was not how I'd pictured my victory. But the real problem, the "oh God, what have I done" problem, happened around noon. The goats, having decided my lawn was passé, made a discovery. They discovered that there is more to life than grass. I was in the garage, polishing the beast. Just, for old time's sake. I was missing her, the smell of her, the roar. I was just giving the chili can a little buff when I heard a new sound, a crunching sound, a rhythmic, plastic, expensive sound. I walked out of the garage. I looked at the side of the house. Brenda, the goat, was not eating the grass. She was on her hind legs, braced against the house, eating the vinyl siding, just peeling a long strip of it off and chewing it, thoughtfully, like it was fruit by the foot. "No!" I screamed, dropping my polishing rag. Bad goat! Hey, stop eating the house!" I ran over, shooing her. "Bad! Grass! Eat the grass!" The goat just looked at me. She had a long beige piece of vinyl dangling from her mouth. She stared right into my soul and bleated. It was a disrespectful bleat. A bleat that said, "Make me." I was losing control of my mowers. "Sarah," I yelled, we have a siding situation." "We have a what?" she yelled back from inside. The mowers are diversifying their diet." Before she could answer, before I could even process the $1,000 repair I was looking at, I heard it. I heard the scream. It wasn't a "I saw a spider" scream. It wasn't even a "you left the toilet seat up" scream. This was a primal scream. This was a "someone is dead" or "my azaleas are dead" scream. Both were bad. I sprinted around the corner to the front yard. Sarah was on the front step. Her hand was over her mouth. Her eyes were wide. She was vibrating. She was staring at her prize-winning coral sunset azaleas. They were her pride. She'd won second place at the county fair. They were gone. Not gone. They were stumps, just chewed, pathetic little sticks. And Stomper, the brown one, was just finishing the last of the coral sunset blooms. He looked so pleased with himself. He had little pink petals on his beard. Sarah didn't look at me. She just stared at the carnage. "Dave," she said. Her voice was quiet. "Dead." terrifying. "Dave, tell me Stomper is not eating my award-winning azaleas." I looked at Stomper, who burped. I looked at the little green stumps. I looked at Sarah. "Honey," I said, trying to find the words. "Look, on the bright side, they're being recycled organically. It's the circle of life." The look she gave me. I slept on the couch that night. The couch, which was inside. The goats. The goats were not inside. They were sleeping, quite comfortably, on the hood of my car, which I'd foolishly left in the driveway. Their little hoofprints were everywhere. The honeymoon was definitely over. I was on a stepladder at 9 a.m., trying to patch the vinyl siding wound with a piece of beige duct tape I'd found. It was not a good match. It was shipping box beige, not house beige. It looked pathetic. The goats were in their Fort Knox picket pen, staring at me, judging me. Butthead was chewing on the gate latch. Just chewing. I heard a car pull up, a slow, official-sounding car. I looked over my shoulder. It was a police cruiser. Not a siren. No flashing lights. Just a slow, sad, I really don't want to be here on a Sunday cruise to my curb. My heart hammered. Brenda. She'd called the cops? On goats? Officer Miller got out of the car. He was young. He had a mustache that looked like it was trying its best, but failing. He adjusted his utility belt. He looked at the duct-taped siding. He looked at the goats on my car. I'd forgotten to move it. He looked at the patchy, dirt and poop-filled lawn. He looked at me, on a ladder, holding a roll of duct tape. And he just sighed. It was a sigh that contained the weariness of 1,000 suburban complaints. "Okay," I said to myself, climbing down. "Just be cool. You're a citizen. You're an agri-scaper. You've done nothing wrong, except maybe the siding thing, and the azaleas, and the car hood poop. But those aren't illegal." "Afternoon, sir," Officer Miller said, stopping at the edge of the lawn. He didn't want to get any closer. I couldn't blame him. The olfactory nuisance was robust today. "So," he said, I'm just gonna ask, are those your goats?" "Officer," I said, trying to sound breezy. "Good afternoon. Yes, sir, these are my new lawn mowers." I gave him a winning smile. Eco-friendly. Very quiet. HOA approved? Well, not disapproved, which is, basically the same thing. Miller just looked at me. His mustache twitched. "Right. Well, we're getting calls. A Mrs. Brenda from 4B? "Brenda," I scoffed. "Of course. What's she saying? That they're mowing without a permit?" "She says," Miller said, consulting his little notebook, "that your mowers have been bleating aggressively." "Aggressively?" I interrupted. "Brenda, the goat, can be a little sassy, but aggressive is a strong word." "Bleating aggressively," he continued, "and creating an olfactory nuisance." "Olfactory? That's fertilizer, officer. It's natural. It's organic. You know what's unnatural? 70 decibel limits on a Saturday. That's the real crime if you ask me." Officer Miller pinched the bridge of his nose, right above the mustache. "Sir, I don't care about your mower. The city, not the HOA, the city of Harmony Creek, has an ordinance, 12.5. Nuisance animals." "Nuisance? They are not a nuisance. They're livestock." "Sir, you live in a zero-lot line subdivision. You can't have livestock. And, sir, goats are They're pushing nuisance. People's petunias are, well, you know, and the smell, and they're on your car, sir." I looked over. Stomper was, in fact, licking the windshield. This was it, my big legal moment. "But the HOA bylaws," I said, pointing a duct tape sticky finger at him. "They're silent on ungulates, officer. Silent. It's a loophole. Foul. Yes. Ungulates. No." Miller looked so tired. "The city isn't silent, sir. The city ordinance trumps the HOA bylaw. The city says any animal which, by virtue of its smell, noise, or destructive nature, interferes with a neighbor's peaceful enjoyment of their property, is a nuisance," he pointed. "Sir, your neighbors are not peacefully enjoying." He was right. The Hendersons were definitely not enjoying. They were staring. "Look," Miller said, "I don't want to be here. The goats, they don't want to be here. This isn't a farm. Just keep 'em clean and quiet and off the car." He tore a piece of paper from his notebook. "This is an official warning. Containment of livestock. If I have to come back, I'm writing a citation. And you're going to have to do something about the smell." He got back in his car and drove away. Brenda was watching from her window. I saw the blinds twitch. I gave her a half wave. She snapped the blinds shut. I was defeated. The law, the real law, was on her side. I went inside. Sarah was at the kitchen table, head in her hands. "A cop, Dave?" she said, her voice muffled. "You got a cop called on you? Because of goats? This has to stop. You have to call, what's his name? Goat Greg. Get rid of them." "Stop," I said. The rage was building again. The principal was back. "Stop? I'm just getting started. He said containment. I just need better containment. I need to make this fence taller." "Taller? Dave, it's already a picket prison. You can't." "Oh, I can't," I said. "I can't?" I was a man on fire. I grabbed my keys. I was going to Home Depot. I spent the rest of Sunday upgrading. I bought 20 10-foot rebar stakes. I bought 3 50-foot rolls of chicken wire. I bought a spool of heavy-gauge baling wire. Fernando's beautiful HOA-compliant fence was about to get an extension. And I spent 8 hours wiring and staking. I hammered the rebar 2 feet into the ground, right inside the picket line. I ran the chicken wire from the top of the picket fence, all the way up to the top of the rebar. When I was done, it was a monstrosity. It was a 4-foot, charming white picket fence with an 8-foot-tall, rusty chicken wire and rebar tumor growing out of it. It looked like a Cold War-era, escape-proof picket fence. It was insane. Sarah was mortified. "Dave, the neighbors. She's taking pictures." "Let her," I yelled, wiring the last piece shut. "Let her, it's decorative trellis work." "It is not. It's Mad Max. You're turning our house into Mad Max." "The goats," I said, breathing heavily, "are contained. Let's see them get out of that." I threw my tools down. I was victorious. I was probably about to get another laminated note. But I didn't care. My upgrade was, well, it was a statement. It was a statement that said, I am a crazy person, and I am not giving up. It looked, if I'm being honest, horrible. The rebar leaned at odd angles. The chicken wire sagged in the middle. It cast a weird, grid-like shadow over. The Hendersons' vibrating petunias. It's rustic, Sarah, I argued over breakfast Monday morning. It's rustic, all right, she said, sipping her coffee. Dave, you're going to get us sued. You're going to get us laminated. Nonsense, I said. It's secure. The goats are contained. Miller will be happy. Brenda will be… well, she won't be happy, but she'll be stymied. It's foolproof. I went to work. I was an accountant. My days were not exciting. My days were spreadsheets and 10 keys. This goat war, it was the most alive I'd felt in years. I was humming Fortunate Son at my desk, much to the annoyance of my cubicle mate, Stan. You're chipper, Dave, Stan said, around 2:00 p.m. Just, conquered a few personal challenges, I said, feeling smug. My phone rang. It was Sarah. Hey, honey, I said, leaning back in my chair. How are the mowers? Dave, she screamed. A scream, a new scream. This one was pure, uncut, 100 proof panic. Dave, they're out. They're all out. My blood turned to ice. My chipperness vanished. What? Out? How? The fence? The chicken wire? The rebar? I don't know, Dave. Butthead dug. He dug under the gate. And now, oh God, now Brenda ate the mail. The actual federal mail. That's a felony, Dave. Oh my God, I whispered. Stan was staring at me over the cubicle wall. And that's not the worst part, Sarah shrieked. Chewy is eating Mr. Henderson's prize-winning petunias. He's in the pot. He's standing in the pot. I'm coming home, I said, grabbing my keys. What do I tell Brenda? She's outside. She's directing traffic around Stomper, who is just standing in the middle of the road. I'm coming home. I broke every traffic law getting out of the office park. I hit 70 in a 45. I was a man on a mission. I was a goat wrangler. I screeched into Harmony Creek, my tires protesting. It was anarchy. It was worse than she'd described. It was a suburban disaster movie. Exhibit A, Mo, the small brown one, was on the hood of Brenda's brand-new cream-colored Lexus, which was parked in her driveway. He was eating her windshield wipers, just chewing the rubber off, like it was licorice. Exhibit B, Stomper and Butthead were, in fact, in the Hendersons' yard. They were playing King of the Hill on their 3-tiered, ornate, pseudo-Italian water fountain. Water was splashing everywhere. They were bleating in triumph. Exhibit C. And Brenda, Goat Brenda, was trotting down the middle of Harmony Creek Drive with a Pizza Hut flyer in her mouth. Human Brenda was, as Sarah had said, in the middle of the street, wearing a bright yellow safety vest. Where did she get a safety vest? And trying to direct traffic. A single, confused Amazon Prime van around the chaos. This had escalated beyond my expectations. Dave! Sarah yelled from our porch. She was wearing her robe and slippers. Do something! I jumped out of my sedan. Here, goats! Here, goat! This was a mistake. It was like trying to catch, well, goats. They were fast. They were agile. And they were, I was learning, sadists. I made a lunge for Goat Brenda. Gimme the pizza flyer. That's littering. She just looked at me, juked left, and trotted into another yard. Sarah ran out with a broom. Shoo! Shoo, goats! This only made them faster. Stomper and Butthead saw us, bleated, and scattered from the fountain right into the Hendersons' open garage. I heard a crash. A very expensive-sounding crash. "Oh no, 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 no," I muttered, running after them. It was chaos. Just pure, unadulterated, goat-fueled chaos. I saw Dave make a diving tackle for Brenda, the goat. He missed. He slid head-first on the dew-covered grass, right into a small, decorative, "Please leash your dog" sign. It took 15 minutes. 15 minutes of me, Sarah, in her robe, and two very confused teenagers who had been skateboarding by to wrangle them. I had Chewy under one arm. Sarah had a rope around Brenda's neck. The teenagers, who were way too amused by this, had somehow cornered Stomper. We got them all, except one. We stood in my violated front yard. The dugout tunnel under the gate was enormous. Butthead was a digger. "Wait," Sarah said, breathing heavily, broom in her hand. "1, 2, 3. Where's Butthead? I don't see Butthead." My heart stopped. We looked around. We looked in the Hendersons' now very messy garage. We looked behind my car. No Butthead. And then we heard it. A faint bleat. It was coming from above. I remembered, with dawning, ice-cold horror, my conversation with Goat Greg. "I'm telling you, they're climbers. Don't call me when they get on the roof, 'cause they'll get on the roof." I looked up. Butthead was on my roof. He'd used the leaning oak tree at the corner of the house. He was standing on the chimney, silhouetted against the 5 p.m. sunset. Majestic. Proud. And he was chewing on a shingle. The street fell silent. The Amazon Prime driver had just given up. He was parked, watching. The skateboarding teenagers were filming. And Brenda, human, was also filming, with her iPad, holding it up, landscape mode, like she was documenting a historical event. Which, I guess, she was. A roof goat," Mr. Henderson whispered from his, now safe, porch. "Dave," Sarah said, her voice a low, dangerous monotone. "There is a goat on our roof." I see that, honey. He's just inspecting the shingles." "Get it down." Right. Get it down," I said. "Butthead. Here, Butthead. Get off the roof. Down." "Bad goat." Butthead just stared at me. He ripped off another piece of shingle and chewed. He was taunting me. I heard a siren. A real siren. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me," I muttered. Officer Miller pulled up. He was not alone. He was with Officer Miller. No, that's a different cop. 2 cruisers. Officer Miller got out. He slowly took off his sunglasses. He looked at me, covered in grass stains and shame. He looked at the 3 goats I was currently trying to wrestle back into the chicken wire prison. He looked at Sarah, in her robe, holding a broom like a weapon. Then he looked up. His mustache twitched. He put his sunglasses back on. He didn't say a word. He just looked at me. He looked disappointed in me, not angry, just weary, like I'd personally ruined his entire concept of law enforcement. He just got back on his radio. "Yeah, dispatch," he said, his voice flat. It's a goat on a roof. Yeah. Goat. G-O-A-T. No, not greatest of all time, a literal goat. Just, yeah, send him. He got off the radio. He looked at me. The fire department is on its way, sir. The fire department? I shrieked. For a goat? Can't you just, I don't know, lure him down? Sir, I am not trained in rooftop livestock extraction. Please, just contain the grounded ones. 10 minutes later, a full-blown, lights-flashing, horn-honking ladder truck pulled onto our street. This was a new low. My goat had summoned a fire truck. A fire captain, a guy who looked like he ate bricks for breakfast, hopped out. He was not happy. What is this? He boomed, looking at Miller. Goat on a roof cap, Miller said. The captain looked up. He stared at Butthead. He looked at me. Sir, the captain boomed. Is that your goat? He's a climber? I offered weakly. Rookie, the captain yelled. Get the ladder. We've got a hoofed mammal on a roof. A young firefighter, who looked about 19, started prepping the ladder. The entire neighborhood was out now. It was 5:30 p.m. Everyone was home from work. This was the most exciting thing to happen in Harmony Creek since the great mailbox standardization of 2019. The ladder extended. Rookie climbed up. He got to the roof. Okay, Rookie said, his voice shaky. Here, goat, goat. Here, goat. He was trying to lure him? With, what is that? A granola bar? He won't come for that, I yelled up, cupping my hands. You need an azalea or some vinyl siding. He loves the siding. The fire captain just glared at me. Sir, please, step back. Let the professionals handle the goat. Rookie got closer. Come on, buddy. Nice goat. Butthead just lowered his head. He took a step. And he headbutted the firefighter. Not hard. Not a send-him-flying headbutt. Just a firm, assertive, I am the king of this roof, and you are a peasant with a granola bar, bonk. Rookie stumbled. The ladder shook. The crowd gasped. Brenda's iPad work was cinematic. All right, that's it, the captain yelled. Get the catch pole. Rookie scrambled down. Another beefier firefighter went up, with the long pole and loop thing that dog catchers use. It was undignified. For everyone. They finally got the loop around Butthead's neck. He bleated. He kicked. They basically dragged him, scraping and kicking, off the chimney, across the roof, and down the ladder. He landed on the lawn. He just shook himself off, and immediately started eating my shoelace. The crowd applauded. I was mortified. Officer Miller walked over. He was not, oh God. He was writing a citation. Several, in fact. Mr. Johnson, he said, his voice as flat as a week-old soda. This is a public nuisance citation. That's $150. This is a failure to contain livestock citation. That's $250. And this, he scribbled, is a reckless endangerment of a firefighter by ungulate citation. You made that up, I sputtered. The judge'll get the gist, Miller said, handing me the stack of pink paper. You have 48 hours to remedy the goat situation, Mr. Johnson. 48 hours, or we're coming back, and we're impounding the ungulates. He got in his car. The fire truck honked at me and drove away. The crowd dispersed. Brenda gave me a tight, smug smile and finally stopped filming. It was just me and Sarah and the 4 goats. I was holding Butthead by the collar. He was purring. Do goats purr? I looked at Sarah. She was on the porch. She was holding a suitcase, a small overnight bag. Oh no, I said. Sarah, come on. It was just a roof goat. I'm going to my sister's, Dave, she said. Her voice was calm. It was the calmest I'd ever heard her. It was terrifying. For just tonight, right? The goat, she said. Or me. You have 24 hours, not 48. 24. You have to choose, Dave. She walked past me. She didn't look at the goats. She got in her car, and she drove away. I was alone, with the goats, on my shingle-less, patchy, poop-covered, vinyl-stripped, azalea-less lawn. I think I'd lost. I sat on the porch. The sun had set. The only light was the HOA-approved, warm white lamppost on the curb. It was silent. Sarah was gone. The neighbors were inside. The fire trucks were gone. Well, not silent. The goats were in their rebar and chicken wire prison, and they were bleating. It wasn't the chomp-chomp of victory. It was the sad, pathetic, I'm bored and I ate all the siding bleat. The house smelled. Even from the porch. The wind had shifted, and the olfactory nuisance was my own nuisance. I looked at the citations in my hand. Reckless endangerment by ungulate. This was it, the dark night of the soul. I'd lost. The beast was silent in the garage, a defeated-looking hunk of metal. My new mowers, the organic ones, had betrayed me. They'd eaten my house. They'd eaten my azaleas. They'd headbutted a firefighter. They'd gotten on the roof. And they'd driven my wife away. My lawn, my beautiful suburban 2.5-inch regulation height lawn, was a toxic wasteland. A patchwork of dirt, holes, and pellets. Brenda had won. She'd won. It was a bitter, goat-pellet-flavored pill to swallow. I'd fought the law, and the HOA, and my wife, and the fire department had won. I pulled out my phone. My fingers felt heavy. I went to my recent calls. There he was. Goat Greg. I pressed the button. It rang once. Yeah? Hey, Greg, I said. My voice was a hollow croak. Yeah, it's City Boy. I heard him sigh on the other end. All right, what did they do? Get on the roof? Yes, I whispered, ashamed. Knew it. Butthead, right? He's a roof goat. Got it from his daddy. Greg, listen. Do you do returns? The sound that came through the phone, it was a laugh. A long, wheezing, 30-second-long laugh that sounded like a donkey dying of emphysema. It was not the laugh of a man who does returns. Returns, he finally choked out. Son, I told you! You buy 'em, they're your problem. That suburban aggravation fee ain't nearly high enough for returns. Please, Greg, I begged. My wife left me. The cops they're going to impound the ungulates. I'll pay. I'll pay double. Greg's laughing subsided into a chuckle. Well, now, double is a different conversation. I don't do returns, but for, let's say, $100, I'll come repossess 'em. Call it a hauling fee. 100? You sold them to me for $250. That's supply and demand, city boy. Right now, my demand to drive into your plastic cookie-cutter goat-hatin' neighborhood is high. $100, cash, and I'll be there, let's say 7 a.m. Tomorrow? Yes. Thank you, Greg. 7 a.m. I hung up. I sat in the dark for another hour. The next morning I was waiting on the curb when Greg's rickety truck and trailer pulled up. He got out. He was smiling. He walked onto the battlefield. He surveyed the mud pit. That was my lawn. He looked at the vinyl siding, duct-taped and chewed. He looked at the chicken wire and rebar monstrosity. He just nodded, impressed. Wow, he said, whistling. They really did a number on that siding, huh? Brenda always did like a good texture. Just get them, Greg, please. All right, he said. Loading them was easier than I thought. Greg just opened the gate. All right, you monsters, back in the box. They just trotted into the trailer. Like this was all part of their plan. Like they were done with me. It was sad. Butthead, the last one in, stopped. He looked at me. He licked my hand. It was rough, like sandpaper, and it smelled awful. He likes me, I whispered. Nah, Greg said, slamming the gate. He's tastin' ya. You got salt on your skin. He'd eat you if you stood still long enough. That's $100. I gave him the money. My last $100, so. Pleasure doing business with you, city boy, Greg said, tipping his hat. And hey, a word of advice? What? Next time, just buy a rabbit. They're quiet, and they breed like, well, rabbits. He got in his truck and drove away. The silence was heavy. It was a thick, empty, goatless silence. I stood on my porch. My yard was a war zone. I called Sarah. Hello? She answered, her voice wary. They're gone, honey, I said, my voice quiet. The goats are gone. Goat, Greg, he repossessed them. There was a long pause. Are you going to fix the siding? Yes. And the lawn? Yes, and are you going to buy a quiet mower now? I looked at the citations on my table. I looked at the hole in my house. I looked at the pellets. Yes, honey, a very, very quiet one. An hour later, I was at Home Depot, for the second time, in the mower aisle. I walked right past the gas mowers. I couldn't. I bought the Whisper Mow 3000, the most expensive, most pathetic, quietest lithium-ion battery-powered mower they had. It was silver. It had a turbo quiet button. It had cup holders. I went home. I unboxed it. I didn't even have to pull a cord. I just pressed a button. Whirr. It sounded like a dentist's drill. It sounded like an apology. I pushed it out onto my dirt patch lawn. I started mowing. It wasn't mowing. It was pushing pellets around. It was humiliating. I looked up. Brenda. She was on her porch, sipping a lemonade. She saw me. She saw my pathetic, whirring silver mower. She saw my ruined yard. She didn't wave. She didn't call out. She just smiled, a slow, tight, victorious smile. I'd lost. The next week was a blur of humility. Sarah came home. She didn't say, "I told you so." She didn't have to. The giant, gaping, goat-chewed hole in our siding said it for her. My life became a series of repairs. First, I had to fix the lawn. It was too far gone. The pellets, the holes. I had to hire a landscaping crew, a real one. They came, scraped my entire lawn down to the bare, sad earth, and laid new sod. Pristine, perfect, expensive. Then I had to fix the house. I called Fernandez Finest Fencing. "Ah, Mr. Johnson," Fernando said, his voice hesitant. How are the Irish wolfhounds?" They didn't work out, Fernando," I said. They were transferred to Alaska. They needed more room." "Ah, Alaska. Yes, makes sense. So you need the prison fence removed?" "Yes, Fernando. Please, and do you do vinyl siding?" "Terrible termite problem you had there, Mr. Johnson," Fernando said a few days later. He was replacing the entire side panel of my house. He was a saint, and he was very expensive. "Yes," I said, watching him work. "Terrible, aggressive, termites, chewed right through. The weirdest termite damage I've ever seen," he said, shaking his head. "Almost looked like teeth. Termites, Fernando. Big ones. From Alaska." Life returned to normal. I had a new, perfect lawn. I had a new, perfect, non-chewed wall. And I had my new, perfect, whirring silver mower. I mowed every Saturday at 10:03 a.m. The Whisper Mow 3000 was fine. It cut the grass. It was quiet. It was soulless. I hated it. Brenda was smug. She was so smug. She'd wave, a little victorious queen wave. She'd won. She'd beaten me. She'd cost me, I did the math, nearly $4,000 in goats, fines, and repairs. I was a broken man. This Saturday, a month after the rooftop standoff, I was doing my pathetic whirring. The lawn looked good. The new sod was taking. It was a beautiful, lush Kentucky bluegrass. I finished. I was rolling up the cord, and I saw it taped to my front door. A new laminated note. My hands shook. What now? Did my breathing exceed the decibel limit? Was my whisper mow too whispery? I tore it off the door. "Notice," it read. "Per Section 8C of the Harmony Creek bylaws, all new sod installations must be fescue blend only. Your sod appears to be Kentucky bluegrass. Please remedy immediately. Failure to comply will result in fines." I was going to snap. "Kentucky bluegrass!" I screamed, to no one. "Are you kidding me? Remedy immediately? It's grass." I was vibrating. I was going to, I don't know, I was going to buy a cow. A whole cow. I was going to… I crumpled the note. I was about to storm over to her house. I was going to yell, but then I saw movement. I stopped. I looked across the street at Brenda's perfect prize-winning fescue blend lawn, and I saw a rabbit, a cute, fluffy little rabbit, just sitting on her lawn, chewing. Huh, I thought. A rabbit, where'd… And then I saw another rabbit, a little bigger one. And another, and another. I looked at Brenda's lawn, and it was covered. There were a dozen rabbits, all over her lawn, just feasting, having a picnic. What in the… And then I looked at my yard. I looked at the Mad Max fence that Fernando had removed. I looked at the spot under the gate where the landscapers had laid the sod, but they hadn't filled. They hadn't filled the hole. The hole that Butthead dug. The tunnel. The tunnel that went from my yard, under the fence, and into the woods behind my house. Butthead, I thought. My eyes watered. Butthead, you beautiful, chaotic, magnificent genius. You didn't just dig an escape route. You dug an access tunnel. I slowly turned off my silent mower. The whirring stopped. I walked to my newly resided porch. I went inside. I got a beer. I came back out. I sat in my lawn chair. And then I heard it. A new sound. A shriek. It was Brenda. She'd run out onto her front porch. She was pointing at her lawn, which was now a sea of fluffy-tailed, ungulate-adjacent, fescue-loving rabbits. My fescue! They're eating my fescue! Get out of here! Shoo! She was running onto her lawn, in her silk robe, flapping her arms. The rabbits just looked at her and kept chewing. I just sat there. I took a sip of my beer. The rabbits, they were silent. They were eco-friendly, and they were not on my property. I looked at the crumpled, laminated, Kentucky bluegrass violation in my hand. I looked at the rabbit-pocalypse happening on Brenda's lawn. And I just listened. It wasn't the beast roaring. It wasn't the whum-chunka-chunka, but the sound of Brenda screaming, absolutely losing her mind, at a horde of silent, fluffy, fescue-eating rodents. That, my friends, was a new kind of lawn song, and it was beautiful.